custody over the children? Who has more rights over the children and after divorce happens?
With regards to child custody and the widespread problem of divorce and a high divorce rate, and it's not just in America or in Western countries. You read the statistics, you'll be shocked and scared in the Far East and in the Middle East as well. Divorce is a huge problem, and fighting over the children is another problem as well. In general, the people of knowledge, they say that the whole purpose of child custody, which is not necessarily an accurate translation of the concept in the traditional books of Islam, al-Hidana. And the word hidana is originally extracted from a bird sitting on top of her eggs. Okay, incubation or taking care of the nest. That's where the word comes from, al-hidn, which is a part of the body, whether it's a woman's hip, a woman's flank, or a man's hip and a man's flank, meaning the baby being kept close, being kept warm, and being protected. So the word hidana means much more than just custody. Custody is who takes the child. Obviously, from the requirements of those who take the child, looking after the child, educating the child, etc. But it's much deeper than that. And oftentimes you misunderstand the concept by misunderstanding the actual terminology. So with that being said, the people of knowledge, they say that the one who is most suited for the task of the spiritual, physical, and mental development and protection of the child deserves the child the most. The one who's most capable, the one who's most able, the one who's most suited to look after the child's spirit, the soul, the deen, tarbiyah, and also the child's mind, giving the necessary development of the child's mind, and also protecting the child from anything which will pollute, corrupt, and cause major type of illness or distortion to the child's mind. Last but not least, less important is the physical upbringing of the child. So sometimes that's the father, the ex-husband, the man. Other times it's the woman, the mother, the ex-wife. Sometimes in the Islamic court system, the qadi, he may, or even in the secular court system, they may say, no, it's the aunt or the uncle or someone that isn't related. So there are theoretical principles, yes, there are narrations in which the Prophet ﷺ was clearly asked and specifically asked with regards to divorce and the problem of divorce. When a woman said that I used to look after this child, I used to feed him, breastfeed the child was on my lap, the child was on my hip, I look after the child, and the father has divorced me. And the way that she worded in the hadith as if he did it in an inconsiderate way. I was a good wife, a loyal wife, and he divorced me. And then injury to insult. After he divorced me, فَأَرَادَ أَنْ يَنْتَزِعَهُ أَوْ أَنْ يَنْتَزِعَ وَلَدِي مِنِّي. Now he wants to snatch my child from me. The Prophet ﷺ, he informed her. He says, أَنْتِ أَحَقُّ بِوَلَدِكِ مَا لَمْ تَنْكِحِي. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He says, you deserve your child the most as long as you don't remarry. And we have other narrations that speak about the Prophet ﷺ giving the child the choice and the option who they want to live with. Whether it's at the age of 5, at the age of 7, and the list goes forward. The point I'm trying to get to is one point, brothers and sisters, and that is that there are theoretical principles, rulings, default rulings for who deserves the child, who deserves the custody at the time of divorce. And obviously the scholars of Islam, just like they differ on issues of prayer, purification, al-Haj, this and that, they differ on these issues as well. Some of the scholars of Islam say the mother deserves the child the most. Other scholars, they may say, no, the father. And other details, those are the theoretical principles. But in a land in which Islam is taught and practiced, and it's not a secular and nominal society, the judge, the Islamic judge, the qadi, he's going to meet them, sit with them, look in them, look towards them. He's going to investigate, and he's going to figure out who is most suited to take care of the child. And it may not be the mother. The mother may be unsuited. She has a good religion, but she doesn't have the necessary wealth. The father has the wealth to take care of the child, but he has a bad religion. Everybody understand this? So it has to be details. Now, obviously, living in America or Canada or the UK or Australia or any Western country, the system of Islamic courts, that's an issue in itself. You go to the civil courts, Obviously, their scales and their ways of judgment are sometimes parallel with those of Islam, and sometimes they aren't. Everybody understand this? So if the Muslims, the man and the woman, the wali, the father, if they can't sit down with respect and with honor and sit down and have an objective discussion. All right, look, we're not here to throw food at each other or throw mud at each other. My son was married to your daughter, so on and so forth. That's done now. Who was wrong, who oppressed who, that's done. Now we have a child or we have children. Let's sit down as, first and foremost, Muslims, adults who have brains, who have hearts, and let's figure out what is best for the child. Spite, pride, ego, hurt, and all of these emotions and elements, let's try our best to put them to the side. Not because I like you or you like me, not because your son didn't beat up my daughter or my daughter didn't cheat on your son, no, but for the purpose of the child, to be objective for the benefit of the child. Just like an imam of a masjid, he is not there for his own personal emotions and feelings. He's there to benefit the community, to serve the community. And the moment you get caught up in your own personal ups and downs and you lose focus on what you're there for, there's going to be major problems as we see today. So the child comes first and the child comes last. It's better for you to take the child, even though it's my child and I want him to be with me, but I don't have a steady job, or my religion is not that good, or I travel too much, or I have major problems, I have mental issues, and the list goes on. So therefore, in brief, guys, there are principles which, yes, the general rule, 1 + 1 = 2, the woman keeps the child, especially when the child is young. The child needs to be fed. The woman has an incredible and amazing ability to deal with children unlike men. Allah tells us in the Quran, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنثَى. Male is not like the female. And this verse is not just talking about one child. This is universal. Men have certain talents and abilities. Women have certain talents and abilities. Just like the discussion of the hadith about a woman being deficient in intellect and being deficient in her religion. Dr. Brown, he gave some important points and some beneficial points with regards to men are not women, women are not like men. And the Prophet ﷺ, he emphasized the concept of gender role. And he cursed men who imitate women, and he cursed women who imitate men. So therefore, women, they have certain abilities to deal with children that men don't have, and vice versa. Certain things that women just can't do that men can do. Obviously, it's relative. Some people, they play both roles, but one of the two is always going to be some type of major deficiency. So therefore, there are theoretical rules, yes. The child goes with the mother, stays with the mother. The child is young, still breastfeeding, before the age of 7, 10, 12, remarried. There are rules, but every situation is different. And if you cannot handle this in the Islamic court, then the least least that you can do, bid'nillahi ta'ala, is go to your local imam, your respectable resident scholar, and sit down and be willing to listen to his advice. To sit down and be willing to take the advice of someone who's knowledgeable, learned, experienced, and most importantly, impartial. Hopefully, and Allah knows best.
Maybe, Sheikh, the sisters will be get a little anxious because you said that if she has the deen but she does not have the wealth, and he has the opposite, then maybe he will be able to take care of the child. But they may get a little anxious because he is responsible anyway financially for the child, whether or not she has physical custody. So if she does not have the wealth and she has the deen, the Islamic court will force him to spend on his child and support his child, and will give the physical custody to her.
Naam, Jazakallah khairan. Without a question, even if the child remains with the mother, the father has the obligation of spending upon the child. Rather, with regards to suckling or feeding the child, the father has to pay as well and support the woman relatively as well. So that's not to be misunderstood. If the mother has the custody of the child, or if the child is living with her, the father still is supposed to provide the financial maintenance, even in that situation. If the child is physically living with the mother, whether it's 101%, he's paying for everything, whatever they agree upon, but the default ruling is that the father is supposed to be the breadwinner, yes. So that's not to be misunderstood.
And I wanted also to just I know that the men will hate me for this, but sisters, you also deserve compensation for the custody from the father, according to the majority, except for the Malikis. But Hanafis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis, as long as you're not married and you're taking care of the children, not only that he is required to spend on the children, but he's required to pay you compensation for taking care of the children and the physical custody of the children. Certainly, we will have to be reasonable, and if you're going out and if you're both having full-time jobs, you and the father, and sharing custody and so on, then things will have to be, then justice is the principle that we will have to respect in this case, and it will not be unfair in this case to say to the man that you have to pay her, compensate her for her physical custody of her own children. But in the past, in Islamic courts, you also could go and ask for compensation for the physical custody that you have taken from him by the court order. Anyway. And then I just, for the sisters also, and I know that the answer of Dr. Brown was perfect, but from an intellectual perspective. And I also want to tell you one more thing, which is, does anyone here have any doubt that Khadija radiallahu anha, not Khadija, not Fatima, Aisha, not Aisha, Ayman, Salama, Atiyya, Rubayya, all of those women, does anyone have any doubt that any of those women is much better and much more religious and much more pious and much wiser than all of the men in this room? Combined.
Absolutely.
Probably combined. I don't have doubt that Khadija is wiser and more pious than all of the men in this room. I don't have any doubt about this. So why do you have to be so focused on the sort of group-to-group comparison? If this is not about you as an individual, this is not saying that your husband is more pious or wiser than you, because maybe he's not. Oftentimes, like a lot of times, you don't find that to be true. In Muslim countries, I remember in Egypt, in the 60s, in the 50s, in Egypt, Islam survived by those, through those pious, good women who took good care of that generation, because men during those times were so removed from the religion, detached from the religion. Had it not been for those women, my generation, the previous generation, would have not made it. And Islam survived because of those women. So don't, yes, at the end of the day, Adam and Nuh and Ibrahim and Isa and Musa and Muhammad alayhim afdal salatu wassalam were all men. But that's it. Just maybe men as a group will have that edge because, yes, all of those were men. But if it is about the individual, don't worry about it. You may be a lot more pious and a lot wiser than your husband. So it's not comparing individual to individual here.
Jazakallah.